This is your daily market review for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Let's go. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent, your daily market review for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2024. Hopefully you're enjoying your day. You're not too snowed in, especially if you're down in Florida or Texas, which is pretty wild. Again, I remember growing up in North Carolina, we got plenty of snow here and there, and it's welcome to see back every once in a while. I know it's not always fun to deal with, but hey, brings out the kid side of you potentially. If you haven't seen some snow in a while, get you excited about maybe doing a little sledding, getting out there. All right, well, let's talk about the market. So we know today, typically, Tuesdays after options expiration are typically a turnaround Tuesday. We had a Monday holiday. So today was the Tuesday. And now it's interesting action because we saw Netflix pop, hit exactly into our range and fail, which nice trade if you took that. We're seeing market weakness. Again, I posted watching the VIX and the VIVIX. It looked like the VIVIX was making higher lows, was trying to bounce. We filled the gap on the VIX. So again, near term risk reward and probably not so bullish. If you want to be long the market, more likely that you need to take profits. Again, if you're following the channel, involved in the Discord room, you saw some of these posts. Again, we talked about some of the CAPE ratios, some of the things out there. It's a little expensive right now. Now, again, the market's acting like it didn't know Trump was going to be president or something. I don't know. However, we do know that you have to trade around probabilities, and there's going to be exceptions to every rule. Like that's what the market does. It's chaos, right? It's organized chaos based on probabilities. And when everything seems really bullish and everything seems really bearish, you got to be on red alert. Your mind has to start going, is something up? Meaning is something, are you getting caught in the headlines of raging bull or raging bear? And are you going to get stuck potentially trying to overthink and not manage your trades and not manage the probabilities from which you entered the trade? So if you need help, again, let's check out this daily market review for more insights. If you're new to the channel, let me know how I can help. If you would like to chat, schedule a 30-minute one-on-one with Calendly, I would love to help you guys out. When you're looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate, you get two agents for the price of one. If I'm involved in your deal, I would love to advise you on such. And also too, if you need help with trading, hit me up. Again, I do not mind taking 20, 30 minutes. We'll go through the charts. I'll show you how I actually decide on certain trades. So usually I start with the 10-minute as if I'm my entry points, but a lot of it all starts on daily, weekly volume price analysis. It's not rocket science, a recurring pattern. So let me know how I can help. Follow, like, subscribe on Twitter. I appreciate it. God bless, folks, if there's more fires. Again, if you'd like to donate, there's links in the description below. If you want to hit the thanks button on the YouTube channel, I sincerely appreciate it. Donating $2 if you want to donate a nug to your homie in Colorado, cool. Either way, always here to help. Let me know what you need. Again, there's tons of insight and resources on my website, YouTube. Again, here to help. Turn profits into properties and passive incomes. I mean, again, ultimately, realized gains, right? When you realize them, meaning you take the money, now you got to do something with it. You're just going to plow it back into investing and trading and gambling, or do you want to buy some reoccurring passive income streams? Let's talk about it. So let me know how I can help. Appreciate you guys. All right. CME Fed tools, right? We talked about this. There's a meeting next week, if you didn't remember. And guess what? The odds of a rate cut are settle. So at this point, keep an eye on it. Bitcoin, we talked about the chopness. You had to break out of the range lows. You had to break out of the range highs. Now you're playing games back and forth. Now what? This is where it gets so hard, right? You have to trade the ranges potentially. And this is the thing. After a big up move, big down move, you get into chop cycles. And now go and it's like, what the hell are you talking about, Dan? It always goes up. No, it's like, remember Bitcoin when it did this? And then it went choppy, right? When you're at the lows. I mean, here, look at this. When you dump down to the lows, you had some choppy action for a while, right? Big moves consolidate typically after. And if they don't, well, then you got to be careful for blow-offs. At this point, whether you're bullish or bearish on Bitcoin, just know the ranges. Not going to get too deep into it. Oils, we talked about due to pullback when it raged off of the 66 level. This has got to be killing the feds. Now you're up into the 79, 80 area. Keep an eye on it. Natural gas. Oh, come on. We talked about this being a great trade long-term. Again, if you bought this down in the ones and twos, the ones and twos, 1 2 1 2, Mike 1 2. Yeah, one check, Mike check, 1 2 1 2. I mean, I'd love to see the price action get back down there. Will it happen? No guarantees. However, keep an eye on it. Just again, we like commodities. I don't believe, again, tech is just, to me, is the fluff. the fluff trade, the distraction trade. The long-term trade will be commodities. If you want to build out an amazing technology revolution, what do you need? We need to invest in inputs. That's the trade, y'all. Dollar, we talked about, doing really well post ex-div, rallying with Trump. Now we're watching, see what happens at the 100-day, the mid-29s. TLT, again, talked about it bottoming, but it's really hard to see straight bottoms at a bottom. Like, right? Like, you're going to get this choppy, sloppy action. You typically get choppy, sloppy action. Now, V-bottoms do happen. V-tops do happen. They're just not as, they're more rare. So watching the 88, if we reject 88, again, I'm not going short bonds at this point, but I'd be watching to see what happens. They pull back. Do we fill the gap? Do we retest the 8 and 10 day? Is there a trade here? Is it like some sort of head and shoulders complex? That's what I would be watching. So keep an eye on it, right? The VIX, talked about this today. Filled the gap. Filled the gap. Okay, cool. So what's going on with the VIX? This is where it gets a little interesting, right? We're not confirming. We're not making new lows in the VIX. Red alert, red alert. Now, again, not saying necessarily the market's going to peel like an onion and all the bulls are going to be crying. At worst, we're probably due for some chop and some consolidation. Again, I personally think the market is rather expensive. Again, if you were actually going to do what they say and they're going to start cutting spending, negative GDP gets to be on the board. Again, think about the last couple of years. All of the GDP essentially was just government spending. Right? We've talked about this endlessly. SPY talked about these levels. Look at this gap up. I think we made new all-time highs on the SPX, if I remember right. I don't know. I'm not looking at it. 609.99. Either way. Point being, remember, SPY has a dividend. It pays it out. See, like there? SPX does not pay a dividend, right? Keep an eye on it. Doji Day after a decent upmove. Now, again, hey, shout out Momo. Some of the folks in the Discord room, if you said you thought the market was going higher, again, credit where credit's due. Back up at the highs. Keep an eye on it. Do we follow through? At worst, it feels like you do to chop around. QQQ, look at this, right? We talk about high volume highs, high volume lows. Keep an eye on this area, right? It's lagging. It's not leading like the SPY. IWM, today, when you think the market would be flying, keep an eye on the IWM, right? We talk about it lagging. Well, it's been lagging overall, but now here you go. 50-day curling down, worth an eyeball. DIA, this one was oversold. Talked about this. Here you go. Doji, getting a little tight. Decent volume today. Keep an eye on this stuff, y'all. The GLD, right? Keep an eye on this, right? Holding up really well. Again, we talked about you disappear for a year. Cool. Keep an eye on it. I personally have a physical makes sense. The paper contracts where it gets difficult. That's where, again, watching silver, watching the miners. Keep an eye on this stuff. Again, silver's not really leading, right? Miners, right? Nice little up moves, but you would think they'd be over the December highs. Tracking back towards not all time, but recent highs. Keep an eye on it. GDXJ, same kind of thing. Today's like today, you think you'd be like catching that bid. Not so much. We'll see. Again, AEM back at the highs. Again, we've talked about this one being an actual leader. Doji today. Now, if you're familiar with the Doji sandwich, a Doji sandwich would be a gap up and continuation, or this ends up being a left-right combo where you have big green, Doji, big red. Keep an eye on this. That's typically the situation, especially with up moves, or, again, this is where it's a probability-based game. You need to watch and see what happens. Just do yourself a favor. Again, it's worth watching. You don't always have to trade everything. AEM is a good long-term. Again, I like long-term, but I don't want to chase the highs. AG, keep an eye on it, right? Here you go. These names should be catching bids. Nuant should be catching bids, right? Keep an eye on it. PAAS, keep an eye on it, right? These names, long-term, I don't think you go wrong, but there could be pain if the market pulls back because they're part of the market. If the market pukes, redemptions, people are selling. These names are part of ETFs, part of mutual funds, part of the market balance. They can be sold, just caught in the head. Again, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Taiwan Semi, let's get into tech. Trigger. Talked about watching for the retest up here. Okay. Is this a breakout? This is its earnings reaction. This is tricky. But here's the thing I would be very skeptical of. And again, we talk about gap and traps, right? I'd be watching. Is this a fake new high with a trap? That's what I'd be watching. Keep an eye on it. Micron. We've talked about this being in a big trading range off the lows. I mean, I personally think it's poop. It's got poop potential, but again, they've got some contracts going where they might have welcome strength and time, but man, you need to clear the 200-day moving average. AM Dizzle. Like this one for shortness. Again, I've seen this thing get absolutely toasted. Now, I'm not saying sit here and you want to short it right today. I mean, wait for pops. Again, this is the thing. These things are trading at immense premiums. NVIDIA, speaking of, right? Interesting action. A lot of people getting excited about it. I get it. This gap, here we go. Is this a gap and trap? Keep an eye on it. Could we retest highs again? If you shorted the highs and you're trading around your positions, it makes sense if you're reloading some. But then if you stop out of your reloads, it's fine. That's part of trading, right? Like, again, this is the thing. You go zoom out. This is a huge move. $3 trillion company. Earnings don't really justify the, in my opinion, the valuation long term, because they have to earn it. It's like when Tesla went to the moon. You had to earn the valuation, and then Tesla got waterlogged for a year and change. I think we're going to get into that. That's where, again, trade out. Again, you have the high, trade around it. If it fails, great. If it breaks out, just watch it. Again, I just don't think you personally would own it and sit here and just go, oh, it's going to 165. SMCI, my man Sam I am, breaking the downtrend. Doji, I would be watching for the Doji sandwich. Again, Doji sandwich. Can we gap up and keep running? Or is this going to be an inflection point? Your guess is as good as mine. You don't know until it happens. Intellectual property. We've talked about this. Is this a charity thing for this administration? Or are they actually going to just let them go the way of the dodo boat and someone's going to pick up these assets for cheap? Now, again, if there was a buyout, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to get a premium. You're not going to get a 30 handle on it. You're going to get an 18 bid or a 20, something silly. Keep an eye on it. AVGO. We've talked about this endlessly, right? It's been a leader. Like, zoom out. You go to 40 to 250. It's a pretty solid move. Talk about breaking the downtrend. Okay, well, here's the problem now. You hit the 0.61. Oh my God, it doesn't show the fib. I apologize, the fib of the old one. The old fib. Just look, I'm going to remove it just as a distraction. Now you're retesting the range highs. Do you have an outside reversal bar? No, not necessarily. But it's definitely a pause. Makes you go, things that make you go, worth an eyeball. SMH. Breaking out, or is this a gap and trap? Now, again, we've talked about, I think personally, long term, I mean, it makes sense. Chips are the commodity. You don't want to invest in commodities of chips because, again, the inputs are the issue, right? To make all these great chips. But here's the thing with commodities, meaning like if chips act as a commodity, they're easily replaceable. Everyone's going to be making great chips. What happens to pricing power? It's deflationary. Keep an eye on this. Again, it makes sense in time. When will it be? I don't know. Adobe. Again, you don't know anything for certain. That's what you trade probabilities. Anyone's telling you certainty, they're fucking scamming you. Adobe, 20-day. Apple, we've talked about this. Is it not going to hit the 200-day? I will be impressed. Now, it doesn't mean it can't do a little bouncy bounce, but it seems like it would. Dan Ives upgrading at the highs. Eesh. Amazon, we talked about the 1.618. All right, you're over it. Again, you can play the breakout. Just define your risk. Make it stop. Put a stop at 230. Congrats. We talked about Meta. Every time 630s. Makes sense to me. Look at a Doge again. Posted this today during the market hours, like watching. CRM. This one got baked off of a nice gap up with earnings. Slowly pulling back. Chopping around. This one's tough near term. Again, I'd just be watching it. Guggenheim really needs to get out and keep going. Again, if they got the Quantum 2, whatever, the Quantum 2 chips that are in the next level, it needs to go. Microsoft, this had a really nice bounce today. Okay. Keep an eye on this one because, again, I mean, if you zoom out, this is a big freaking choppy range. Big choppy range. NDAQ, again, I think this is an easy short, but we've talked about it. Again, when the market rises, can all boats get lifted? Absolutely. Now you filled the gap, you shorted up here, you manage your positions, you see what happens. Now, again, if you just took the profit and moved on, it makes sense too. I would be looking for re-entries. MicroStrategy, again, we talked about it. Bitcoin's breaking out. You really need to get over yesterday's candle. Get back up in the 440s. I don't like these gap and traps potential. Keep an eye on it. Not going to sit here and tell you I know for certain, but it looks like a big choppy range. I like some sort of retest into the 240 to 270, 100-day 0.618 range. Netflix, we talked about this earnings pop. Where did it go? Right to the old upper trend bounds. You get a blow off top here. I mean, again, you go from a buck, whatever, 30, 40 up to 1,000. $9.99.99. People were out selling fast as possible at the open. Tells you something. I mean, again, not that this has to necessarily go down to like 200, but it says to you, if you're red alerting this in your mind, I said the trade today was to sell out of the money calls. If you sold out of the money calls that said like the 1100, the 1050, whatever you thought when you're watching the open, you were going to get the IB crush. You got it. Congrats. Amazing trade if you took it. Roblox, I mean, you may have cleared the whole fucking kit and caboodle on those options getting destroyed, depending on how much time out. Holding up pretty high. I mean, again, this one I don't really have much of an opinion on. We talked about liking it lower. It just seems to be holding up. Congrats if you're long it, if you're short it. No, good. Why? Roblox, or sorry, not Roblox. PanW, we talked about the bounce from the 200-day, potentially getting back up after you go from oversold, watching how it acts in the 180s. Tesla, again, this is what we talk about, these big blow-offs. You get caught in this, and now you're starting to think up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Man, it's really confusing. I mean, today's candle was just, you can't barely even see it. It's sticky in there. Said this is a little sketch. Keep an eye on this, right? We'll see. Insight. What is this, right? What is this? A buyout target? Yeah, it is. But man, I would really like to see it lower. We've talked about this, and not much to say here. I mean, waiting for any big pullbacks. If you get it, great. If you didn't and you bought it in the 50s, you're just waiting for the buyout, in my opinion. Palantir, we talked about oversold. Nice bounce. I would be skeptical. Now, I know people are like, it's over the 20-day. It's going. Yes, there's a doji sandwich, right? Here it is. Gap, Doge. This thing had a fucking huge run, guys. Excuse my language. I mean, what is that down here? $5 up to 85. This is where I'd be worried that it's going to make a lower high and play the chop zone. Again, I'm not saying it's going back to $5 or $7. No, it needs to consolidate. It's healthy. It's part of the game. Like, you can't run a marathon endlessly. You got to take some breaks here and there. McDonald's 200-day seems to be. DraftKings keep talking about this 41 plus bound. Look at this. Looks like it snapped off shorts and then closed at the low of the day. Things you know, that's how I see. Airbnb and Bizzle. Chop. Costco. Keep an eye on this. Again, we talked about it was due to bounce after a blow off top to 1,000. 50-day might be a good short reference. Starbucks. Talked about this one going nowhere fast. Nice little bounce off the lows. But again, they've got to actually execute. I don't really have faith. I mean, they kitchen sink the quarter when it bounced. Now you got to watch for the zones. It's just, I don't know, it's just part of the nature of the beast, right? It's like a big mega cap. This isn't some small company. If they get their shit in order, yeah, going to make a huge bull move? Probably. But if they don't execute correctly, competition's coming, there's no pricing, and coffee prices are at all-time highs, going to be a little bit of issues. FedEx, like the short here. I mean, not exactly here, but shorting here, like the post earnings pop, like the 100-day, or honestly, like the 285. Again, it's not going to be always that easy, right? Keep an eye on it. Caterpillar, meow. We talked about this nice bounce, all right? Gap fill. Talked about this yesterday. You got it. Now I'm saying, now do we collapse right off the gap fill? No guarantee. But this is where you use the spots. Now you have a reference. Not saying go out there and short every penny in your account, but it makes sense if you go from 345 up to 400 pretty quick. Worst case scenario, there's a 10-point backdraft, 15-point easily. Deere, again, acting like tech names. Look at these moves. I mean, 400 up to 460. This is John freaking Deere. Again, we talked about inputs. We talked about like industrials. These names will start acting like them at some point. Trying to see it. Nucor coming off the lows. Don't trust it. Again, like the stuff long term, let it pull back. X. Let's start wrapping through this, chopping around. VALE, we talked about the bottom is probably in with the volume, but doesn't necessarily mean it can't retest. Again, I would love to see this thing get hammered one more time. I mean, there's buyers down here. They feel confident, in my opinion. Arrow, we talked about junior copper. Love junior copper. Let it pull back. CCJ getting a nice bounce. Watch what happens here in the mid-50s. Keep an eye on it. CF, we talked about the ag names, finding some call buyers. Again, I like ag. I would just prefer to see it at lower prices, especially like Mosaic, NTR. Just let them play out. Let them chop the fuck out, right? Let them just bottom. Keep an eye on them, okay? AA has earnings after hours. It is at a whopping 39.47. nowhere fast. Again, we like aluminum long-term. Keep an eye on it. Let these pull back. XLF goes overbought. We talked about this, a little overbought off the lows. Again, I personally think banks hold all the bags. Got higher than I thought it would, but today's action, a little reprieve. Not saying necessarily has to melt down from here, but it makes sense. I have long-term puts on JPM. Not really too scared. June is a long time away. We'll see what happens here. Doji, higher rates. Banks, they're not going to be printing money, in my opinion. Morgan Stanley, chopping at new highs. Bank of America, this one has been lagging. Popped on earnings. Keep an eye on it. Goldman Sachs, again, this one's been holding up pretty well. Tight action today. Again, consolidation or inflection. That's the question you have to ask yourself. Carry, talked about this dead cat bouncing. Look where it's at. 50-day old gap. Big volume. High volume highs and lows act as tractor beams. Watch what happens when you get to them. XBI, we talked about this being not necessarily oversold, but just channeling its channel. Keep an eye on it. Jets, nice blow off top. Said yesterday, ooh, look at today's candle. Again, this looked like kind of a trap top. Personally, I'm not shorting this, but it doesn't make sense. I don't expect it to hold up. XHB, we talked about housing, right? Nice bounce. Oversold, hits the 50-day. New builders are struggling. Oil, chopping around. Keep an eye on it, right? Again, not expecting, if it blows out, the feds are fucked. Natural gas, you hate the UNG product, like the short on the KLD. If you short it up in the 80s, you're feeling pretty good. Now, please take us some profit for the love of God. XOP, we've talked about this due to pull back. You got it. Now, again, is this going to be a consolidation? That's the question, right? But either way, if you took your profits, rolled up your stops, you're feeling pretty good. That was a great trade. Some folks I know took it absolute hammer. Love it. CVE, right? Chopping around, got nothing on it. That makes you a little skeptical when the small names don't move. Valero, we talked about gasoline typically leads. Here you go. Gets overbought, hits some resistance, starting to back off. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that oil and gas are going to get crushed, but I'd be taking your profits, right? Or the market takes them from you. ExxonMobil, again, names that you thought would be flying, seems to be kind of stuck in this range. BP, again, I like this trade long term. Not surprised if it consolidates. Broke the downtrend. That'd be awesome to watch. Occidental. Again, I know Buffett will win on this long term, but I'd love to see some sort of head and shoulders bottom. Keep an eye on it. EQT, again, this has been a killer. Give the boys in the Discord room, boys and gals, friends, breakout. We'll see. Big chop zone. Somebody was buying this thing. Keep an eye on it. Last but not least, Flex LNG, because I think we'll be natural gas exporters. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Always here to help. I love you guys. I appreciate love, support, generous donations. We're here to help, man. That's all it is. Let me know what you need. Holler at your boy. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, your PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.